All right, let's see if we are up and running. Let's check my channel here real quick. We'll get started here for a couple hours this morning. Looks like we might be up and running. And checking the mic. Mic. Looks like we might be up and running. And mic. Yep, sounds good enough. All right, cool. We'll drop that down. We're over here with our mic. Our volume is set good. I'm going to grab the link here and do some social media posting and give you my origin story and intro. So, my name is Phil Kearney. Hey, I create role-playing games. I illustrate them, I publish them online, and I've been a dungeon master playing role-playing games for the past 26, 27 years. And I've been using Eberron as my campaign setting world of choice since about 2006. We just had Eberron's 20th anniversary. Happy birthday, 2004. And so I've been creating content for 5th edition since 2017. And what we are creating right now is the first published adventure that I've ever fashioned. And you can see the book cover here called Crystals of Mabar. That is going to be on DMsGuild. It'll be for 4 to 5 characters of level 7 or 8. Social media posting is done, so we can rearrange our windows here. Blip, blip, blip. I'm on the X Twitter platform at Phil Kearney. If you're there as well, you can like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications when we're live in the future. We are here 10 times per week. Thanks to all the new subscribers. Appreciate you all. Hopefully the stuff that I do here is fun and relaxing and occasionally educational and who knows what else. But here's a book cover we created. This was a load of fun to make. This is the first thing. Whenever I do a project, once I figure out that the mechanics are going to work, the first thing I do is I make the book cover. So I have that to basically product identity, obviously, but also to get it out of the way. The last thing I want is when I'm going to publish a book to have the book cover be the last thing that I'm waiting on, because the book cover of all the assets that we create is going to take the most time. So we want to get it out of the way while we're high energy, and as the project goes on, we get lower and lower and lower energy, but the effort of what we do is lower and lower and lower as well, so we can maintain the labor below the level of energy we have to perform it. That's really important. So right now we are building map assets from previous conversations. We have these various tokens that we have created that are basically little slap down illustrations that you can put onto any kind of map surface. There's a black and white version of it as well. Here's the black and white version of these basically puddles. They act as difficult terrain, and they conceal undead in them. The Crystals of Mabar, the adventures is taking place inside of an undead manifest zone called the Plane of Mabar. Co-terminates with the world of Eberron. Mabar is the plane of undeath, darkness, the things that go bump in the night, basically. And so when you manifest a plane, it co-terminates or intermingles with the reality that it was summoned to. So this adventure is about a group of necromancers using an artifact to artificially create a manifest zone to Mabar to make it easy to not only create undead, but also to start terraforming that environment to the different types of plant undeath and alchemical properties in the soil that gets created when the necromancy drains all the life out of the environment and leaves it as an undead husk. It can be harvested to be used as components for necromancy and darkness rituals and spells. So there's a high profit margin involved, as well as providing resources for necromancers to be able to create more undead, and then the undead themselves that spawn as a result of the presence of the necrotic energies of Mabar. Any corpse basically just gets animated. So your team's job is to go and find out what the fuck is going on and get rid of it. There's 6 plots. There's one default plot where you're working for the sheriff and you're deputized to go in and investigate why people are missing and what's going on, but you don't know anything. And then there's 5 other plot hooks that take you everywhere from, you literally have, like, you're invited by your family to move into a farming village, and you take the bait because you're either trying to lay low or you want to set up some sort of dominion, or your team wants to be an Eastern Karn anyway, so it's an easy jumping point. But when you get there, obviously there's undead problems and you need to help your family, and it leads all the way up to you're working for the organization that hired the necromancers to do this, and the necromancers have gone AWOL, so you're sent in to investigate what happened and reestablish control of the location. You're not there to stop the ritual or any of the murders or even the spread of undead. You're just there to make sure that the artifact is still around and that the operation's in place. And once you do, the mission's over. So it's like a one-shot. It's a very, very simple dungeon delve for you to be able to basically explore, have some social encounters, some combat, and then GTFO, very short one-shot. So it spans anywhere from basically like a 3-hour session of just being an auditor all the way through my family's in trouble and I need to protect them as a 60-hour quest. So your choice. You can dive in as deep as we want. We're providing all these optional tokens and additional map assets so that the DM not only has these available to utilize in the future for whatever endeavor you may decide to pursue. We're providing you with basically breakdown tools to be able to build maps on your own, like all the map assets to be able to assemble them either at the tabletop, at the kitchen table in Meat Space, or obviously all the color tokens are super easy just to copy and paste into a virtual tabletop to create environments on the fly. So that's our objective here, is to create these template / tokens of environmental pieces and terrain, so that the way it's structured is there's all this miasmic smoke or fog that hangs in the air and limits visibility. So you go 100 feet and you're going to see stuff that you didn't, 50 paces ago. So you can just drop in terrain pieces as they become apparent in the mist, leading them from one location to the next in a non-linear, pseudo railroady sort of adventure. But it's up to the players to decide which direction they want to go in, and then the DM just starts laying things down in their path to deal with until they get to key points that pushes the story forward. So you can use these little terrain vignettes to add additional combat encounters or random encounters as needed in the environment to pace the resources the team has with what the DM feels is going to be appropriate for upcoming challenges, because each character class has different resources and different ways of accumulating and retaining them and recovering them. It's really up to the DM to kind of understand what the team's capabilities are whenever you lead them into any kind of situation, so you know whether or not the planned encounters will be a cakewalk, or if they'll be truly difficult, or if there's enough paced out that they individually aren't difficult, but cumulatively they become troublesome, which was the original plan for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, to have a frequency of combat that would wear down through attrition the resources you had available. So the depiction isn't that you become more powerful with every encounter until you take a nap and you lose it all. It's you start off fresh and the world wears you down to the point where by the time the villain gets to you, you're running on fumes, and the boss fight doesn't have to be that difficult, which is why none of the boss fights are that difficult. The philosophy of the game is to wear down your resources so that you don't have them available when you need them at the conclusion. You use them to chew through mobs and random lieutenants and stuff. So they're specifically to soften you up, like literally are there to harass and soften you, so that the big bad evil guy doesn't have as much of a challenge defeating you once they finally get to you. That is the benefit of an army or a legion of minions, is to wear down any potential threat. If they can actually get through the defenses, then they are a significant enough threat that the boss would actually need to pay attention to them. It's a very logical progression. The only problem is that it's not used. That is not how that is not table culture in D&D, because D&D because combat is it's slow. It's very structured, incredibly structured, and so it's difficult for, like, you can be spontaneous but only to a degree. You can't just, like, Numenera and Blades in the Dark are incredibly spontaneous game systems that are designed for improvisation, to have a very loose scaffold of what might happen, and then as things, like all the gaps that are in between the main plot points, is just random shit that gets caused by the chaos of die rolls and player shenanigans. D&D is structured more than that. It has a path that you follow, often with set encounters, and for you to be able to have that ability to improvise encounters and plot points and the narrative that fills out the adventure. It's not a novice task, because the game is not built to be improvised. It's more like, if you improvise something, it doesn't normally involve die rolls. So you have to get really familiar with the game system and narrating a game, so you naturally understand where the plot beats are, to add encounters and difficulties to slow the team's progress. How complex of a challenge should it be, and how easy should it be for the team to be able to resolve that specific challenge, because there's a whole bunch of more happening. There's no reason to get caught up in any specific challenge, and that's the problem, I think, is making casual encounters way too in depth, that it becomes emotionally fatiguing to perform multiple said tasks over the course of a single long rest day. You want to pace these things out. They have to be kind of diluted and stretched out over time, so that the team might not need to use any resources during that encounter, but maybe they took some damage, but not enough damage to make them retreat, so they're willing to blow resources after a conflict to heal themselves. A single spell here and there to overcome an obstacle or a terrain. You're slowly wearing down your team, and that slowly part is where we get hung up, because we generally don't pack in as much adventure per day as the characters are designed to handle. And that's mostly because the players can influence when they're getting access to resource refreshes in the form of short and long rests. That should really be up to the DM, but the narrative of the DM controlling when you get to sit down and be tired, it's broken. It requires players' buy-in and permission to surrender that level of control of their characters to the story for the sake of providing challenge to the team. And the team is naturally going to be adverse to risk. So if there's the option between taking a rest and not, they're going to take the rest, so they have more resources, so they are less concerned about losing their character, because their character takes a long time to first build and then to upkeep. Like, if you've played a character for 4 levels, you've got a pretty significant emotional attachment to that character. You don't want to just give them up. Like, there's some game systems, one that I've been playtesting, that it just takes like 2 minutes to build a character of any level, and you're ready to rock and you're effective. And so if your character gets, like, you can have a high level of lethality in low what's the word I'm looking for? In simple character creation rules, the characters can be more disposable, which lets you create less fair circumstances for the, like, you can bait the characters into save or die stuff, right? Hey, what's up? Goblin Lore, what's going on, my guy? Fun fantasy fact: Merlin had like 6 spells in his repertoire, which is really funny since max level wizard in D&D has like 44. And yeah, good times. Yeah, there's the fiction, since the author has full control over conflicts and the resource management of the different characters that are in the storyline. They can really decide how useful their limited resources can actually be. How specific do you need? Like if the story is like for example, Battle Chasers, the comic book Battle Chasers. I don't know if you or anyone else, Goblin or anyone else out there in the world has read that. Super fantastic fantasy Magitech series. There's Nolan is the wizard in that adventure, and his whole shtick is that he has a massive spell book that he can just pull open and pull a spell from at any time, on top of just knowing a shitload of spells off the deck. So he has solutions to every problem in the form of specific scripture that he knows, as opposed to a more improvised driven narrative like Dresden Files is pretty good at this, or like Mage the Ascension is really good at this. You're just spending resources, and then you're just deciding what those like mana points or like what this relic can do. You can improvise what it is. It doesn't have it's soft, quote unquote soft magic, where it doesn't have hard fast rules about what you can do when. Versus Nolan's magic book is far more hard magic. So D&D is a very hard magic system. It defines very specifically what each spell can do, its range, the number of targets, the area of effect, the duration of effects, as opposed to like a light system like Maze Rats, for instance, where you get, oops, my system locked up. I'm gonna have to hit save and then reopen it. In the Maze Rats game, you roll 2 6-sided dice on a grid, and it will it has like a 6x6 grid of words, and there's 2 of them. So you roll a d6 and a d6 to go across and down to find a word, and then you go to the other table, which is a 6x6, and you drop down and you find another word. Like one word could be shielding, and the other one could be cloud. So now you have these 2 words together, and in Maze Rats, it's like you use it once and it's gone. But you can do anything that you want with it that involves shielding and fog. So like you can create a fog effect that shields you. You could create a shield out of fog. You could have fog in people's minds so they can't use telepathy, shielding your mind against them. It's purely how can you narratively combine the 2 words that were randomly rolled to create an effect. And in the role-playing game that I've been playtesting, I've borrowed that and will absolutely pay respects to Maze Rats. I've bought Maze Rats 3 times just because if I can't find it in 5 minutes on my computer, it's worth the $2 just to get it, just to save myself the time. And it's so cheap, but it's such a useful toolkit of just random tables. But I created a 4x4 and a 4x4 grid specifically for each of the archetypes that are inside the game that I've been playtesting. There's a diplomat, there's a delver, delver, espionage, and soldier. So there's 4 separate grids. Like the soldier has more targeting and area of effect type stuff. The diplomat has more awareness and like mental and emotional manipulation stuff. The delver has more environmental looking stuff. But they all have their own little unique lists of spells that changes the flavor. And they're like basically magic effects. And the way that my system works is that it's similar to Numenera, that when you're facing a challenge, it has basically its difficulty on a scale of 1 to 10. And your goal is to hit or beat the number. It's basically challenge times 3 equals beat that number. So a challenge of 10 has a difficulty of 30. If you roll above 30, you have success. And if it's a stacked challenge, it's not just pass or failure. You have to have, like if it's a challenge 10, you have to have 10 degrees of success before that thing is defeated, which is really useful, like when you're disarming a bomb or fighting a monster, so it has a hit point. Like a challenge rating 10, a difficulty 10 monster is going to require a consistent ability, basically using basic D&D math, an ability check of 10, a difficulty DC of 30 to hit a difficulty 10 creature, and it has 10 hit points. So it's everything's in a degree of 3. If you fail your die roll, for every 3 points you fail by, you incur an additional degree of failure. So if I rolled a 1 versus that challenge rating 30, that's basically I failed by 10, which means my character could take 10 points of damage. If it's an AoE, everybody on the team is going to take a portion of that damage. Or if it's a complication, I'll create another problem on top of your original problem that's also a difficulty 10. If you're defeating things, if the difficulty is 5 and I rolled, that'd be a DC 15, like above 15. So if I rolled a 30, that's 5 degrees higher than the difficulty 5 you're working for. Difficulty 5 only has 5 hit points. If I could roll a 30 versus difficulty 15, I can kill it in one shot. But if I'm fighting difficulty 15, the best I'm probably going to be able to roll is a 20, probably like a 24, which will be an 8. So like that difficulty 5, at best, if I roll my absolute best, all I'm going to be able to do is whittle it down by 3. Most likely, I'm going to be taking out 1 or 2 point chunks at a time until it's gone. At higher levels, I'll be able to take out 3 or 4 chunks per hit until something's gone. So I can hit you with multiple difficulty 10 threats. And your team, if you have like a team of 4, you'll be able to whittle through a difficulty 10 probably in two or three rounds. But it can be, it's very spontaneous. Like if it's like some sort of like a super golem that the team is fighting, when they deal damage to it, they'll potentially either just keep it the same strength and it loses hit points, or it could break apart into smaller threats, like that DC 10, that difficulty 10 threat of that super golem. Like if you cleave it in half, and maybe it has the ability to reform itself into 2 separate difficulty 5 twins that you now have to fight separately, but individually they're easier to defeat. It's still going to take the same amount of action economy to do it, but it's going to be easier for you to defeat them. So the DM has a ton of different ways to be able to the dial and pull levers to change the difficulty or intensity of any particular conflict at any particular time. But it's a very soft narrative system with a very basic ability check crunch at the base of it, which makes the resolution mechanics incredibly simple. Just make this, like, succeed at this ability check. Your degree of success determines how much degree of progress you make in that particular challenge. And you can just roll one after the other. Like we just stay in initiative and just keep rolling through different encounters. Every time they start to defeat something and somebody has a mishap, it creates the next tangent to the next adventure that leads them off in the next direction. So they're just constantly being pushed through the adventure, either in the environment or the actual plot itself, with just new complications arising. Go back and watch the movie Clue. If you haven't seen the Tim Curry movie back in the late 80s, that is a great movie for narrative pacing, because there's constant like something weird will happen and everyone will fuck around with it. There'll be like 5 or 6 jokes involved with it, and then something new happens, and then they have to go to another location and they're talking to somebody new and they're fucking around for 4 or 5 jokes, and then something new happens and they have to run off to another location. They're constantly running around the map, interacting with new people at each location, and new information is constantly being introduced into the narrative of whodunit in this Clue movie. And plus, it's really fucking funny. So, like, Clue is a masterwork in manipulating time-space inside of a enclosed environment. It's a really great dungeon delve essay study, I guess. Anyway, what's up? I find it funny how powerful warriors are in mythology, and how comparatively mythologically wizards are. Yeah. I really like soft magic as someone who loves folklore. I hear you there. My problem is that most TTRPGs feels very lazy, with consequences. Like if it feels like it's always, if you fail, you die. Yeah, that's because too many things are binary in nature. There's the game isn't built. Were you part of that discussion? I was in a discussion recently talking about how 5e, the 5e D&D in particular, is very binary, and that it's pass fail, and that it kind of gets in the way of the DM being able to build momentum in towards a team success versus a team failure. The clue description is just ADHD of the adventure. Yeah, no kidding. Maybe not. I forget which server I was on when I was talking. I think it was on. Was it? No, it was on Indestructible Boys channel. I think it was with. I think I was having that conversation with She or Sir Atlas. I don't remember who. Anyway, the point is that Wizards. It's often framed that 5e isn't a good narrative game system because it's too binary and has too much action economy built into combat, which eats up too much of the game space for it to feel like a spontaneous game. And that's not actually a 5e problem. That's a Wizards of the Coast problem. Because I just built a D20 game that uses 5e skill set. Like everything I've been describing about this game, all it uses is 5e skill ability checks. I have a little bit more of a structure around what your bonuses are and die rolling and how your characters scale up in power. I have a more tight structured manner of doing that, but it's still the same bounded accuracy of a range from 0 to 30, whereas 0 is something that automatically succeeds. You don't even need to bother rolling for it, all the way up to a DC 30, which is virtually impossible for anyone below 17th level to achieve unless they have some sort of a feature or gimmick that gives them extra bonuses or extra die rolls to be able to hit those numbers. So bounded accuracy is actually an incredibly good system for keeping you in like these tiers of power that you can have very distinct narrative flavors as you scale up. But the problem is that the way that Wizards presents everything is binary, pass fail. You either open the lock or you don't. As opposed to, but then in 4th edition, which wasn't very popular, so they didn't keep the right parts of it, the skill test system was perfect because that was a way to walk through an encounter with scaling difficulty or momentum to succeed, because you had to get like so many passes before fails, and every time you made a check on something, you would be able to introduce new complications or remove an obstacle from them completing the current task. Basically, the role-playing game I built basically just goes really deep into how can you use ability checks and skill checks to create a progressive narrative system. And so my argument in that conversation was, here's all the different dice mechanics and narratives that you can incorporate into simple ability checks from 5th edition to be able to duplicate anything that you can see in Blades of the Dark or any other narrative-based system that has soft magic. It's not difficult, it just takes time to do it, and that's what I'm playtesting currently. I'm talking about multiple things here at the same time. And I think this all stemmed from the adventure that I'm doing cartography for right now. There's multiple here. I'd show you, but it'd take a little while for me to fish it up. Like when you're investigating people, like some of these people are spies with false identities. So your whatever interrogation skill you use of persuasion, intimidation, or deception, coupled with perception, investigation, and insight. Those are like and you can use charisma, wisdom, and intelligence between those 6 skill options. And depending on what degree of success you get, like if you get like a DC 15 on whatever it is that you're trying to fish out of these people, they'll give you a plausible narrative for while they're there, but it's a complete fabrication. If you get high enough, you start to you get enough information in the order of difficulty as you interrogate them. They reveal more and more information about why they're there, and at some point you hit the end of their story. And if the result that you get is above the highest DC of their current story, you can see cracks in that story. So while they're providing you with pseudo useful information, they're not giving you everything that they know because they're trying to conceal from you what they actually do. So they'll give you enough information for you to be content if you can't roll above that. It's like, yeah, he gave us some stuff, cool, let's go. And you let him go, and his identity isn't revealed. But if you roll high enough, you start cracking that facade and you find out he's actually working for this other organization, but he was just hired to try to get some information about what's going on. But as you keep digging through his storyline, it's like, well, yeah, actually, I know absolutely fucking everything that's going on here. Here's the players, here's the timeline, here's the consequences, and I get inserted here to stop it before it gets to that point. Like, if you can dig into like a DC 25 insight check, that's the kind of shit that you get. You can peel apart a story. And there's like 7 different characters throughout the adventure that has these different tiers. So as the team goes on and they're messing around with these different characters, they have the opportunity to dive into like deeper levels of information than what they may otherwise have access to. So they can be playing this adventure with very surface level information and achieve the goals that they have. Or if they dive in deeper and they find these underlying goal points, they can reassess why they're there and then start crafting into different plot points. While they get information from different people that represent different plots, if they dig into that space, they can pick up these different plot lines and basically incorporate other goals into what their primary goal was. If it's part of an ongoing campaign, you can craft new plot hooks out of that. And we have a section in the back of the book that explains how to blend this all together. So it's like a really liquid system that's designed to let you keep it as shallow as you want, or to dive in with as much intrigue and depth as you please, depending on how long you want the adventure to run for, and how much of a focal point do you want to use it for anything that you do in your campaign after level 8. So I think it was just skill checks. Yeah, it's incredibly good. I saw someone start trying to make a Powered by the Apocalypse game that's also dice pools, and each success gives a choice. It's wild. It's incredible. We've played 17 sessions so far. We're almost concluding our 3rd adventure, and so far we have up to 5 players, and we can process in a 1 hour period of time. We can process anywhere from 7 to 15 rounds of activity where everyone makes a meaningful decision that pushes the story forward. They decide what they want to do. It's actually a really liquid system. I'll be running playtests for it soon enough. My home table is playtesting it right now in my Eberron Asteroid Belt campaign. It's a mix of Spelljammer and Eberron using this ability check system, and it's incredible. Like they've been doing Deep Rock Galactic stuff. Their first mission was to go into a rock and clear out a nest of bugs. But then they found out that the bugs dissolve rock and leave ore exposed, so they decided instead they wanted to capture them and learn how to train them so they could become bug hunters and bug wranglers. Instead of being miners, they would become bug wranglers and have the bugs dissolve the rock for them, and all they have to do is scoop it up and export it. So then they had to go in and try to capture the queen, but they ended up killing her on accident. And then they found a dead elven ranger that had a flute that was carved from the same material, from the chitin of the queen, and they found a dead queen, but the queen they found was still maturing. It was an immature queen. It turns out they pieced together that the original queen of the hive got killed in the process of this ranger trying to do the same thing that the team did. So the hive had to adapt. And they started evolving another a contender to become the new queen, but she hadn't fully molted yet when the team accidentally destroyed her chrysalis. So then the entire swarm had no queen to control them anymore. They found the flute that the ranger had been building, and they fucked around with it, and they found out that the sounds that the flute matched the sounds of the adolescent queen while she was in her chrysalis. When the chrysalis got cracked because of a misfire, the tone changed, and the swarm couldn't understand her anymore. So the flute became the only source of logic that the bugs had left to follow, and they ended up Pied Pipering them out of the asteroid into a cargo truck, basically, and then fly it off to their labs to get researched on. So each adventure takes place inside of a 10-day span of time, and so every 10 days there's a guild update, like what's your mining operation up to, how's your research coming along, kind of like the XCOM game, that you have, you buy resources, you buy more troops, you buy better weapons, you get better spell options, like when they successfully mine an asteroid, they get X amount of resources that can be spent on anything that they want. Like the entire team can have 1 inspiration point per session if they spend a resource on it. They could spend up to, like, there's 5 ranks, so basically there's only 5 levels in the game, and each level represents a tier of D&D. So like first tier, second tier, like first level, 5th level, 9th level, 13th level. It goes up from 2 to 6, right? So it's 1 to 5. Your rank 1 to 5, and then you've got your proficiency. So you've got your ability score bonus ranging from a -2 to a +3, and then you are either proficient or you're not, and that scales from one. Level 0 is basically a +1, and then once you get to 5th rank, it's a +6. So there's effectively 6 levels, even though 0 level is technically the start. But once your guild gets to a higher rank, like the guild has 5 levels too. So the team is attempting to accumulate enough resources to raise the level of their guild, because once your guild gets to like once you get a 3rd rank guild, you can hire 3rd rank teams. So if your 3rd rank party dies, you either start over with a new team at level 0 and build them back up, or your guild hires a new 3rd rank team or 2nd rank team or 1st rank team. But it doesn't cost anything to buy, to recruit a 0 rank team. And the number of levels that you spend there's 25 adventures total that the team runs to get from level 0 to level 5. It's one adventure gets you to 1st rank. After 4 adventures, you're 2nd. After 9 adventures, you're 3rd. After 16 adventures, you're 4th. And after 25 adventures, you're 5th. And then that's where it caps. And at that point, you look at, do I want to keep the adventure, do I want to just keep using this team, or do I want to build another team? Hold on, oh, wait. Let's see if I can flip this around. There we go. I should be down here. Am I doing this right? Yeah. And like sometimes a skill challenge is pass or fail, but like I was talking, that scale of 1 to 10, the difficulty is a multiplier. It's difficulty times 3. So difficulty 10, the max difficulty, is a DC. You have to beat DC 30. DC 30. So if you roll 31 or better, you succeed. And so if it's a difficulty of 5 and you roll a 2, that means that you got 0 successes. So you would take 5 points of damage. Like, there's no reactions in the game. If you fail the check, the reaction is the opportunity attack or whatever. So everyone gets a turn, and then the world gets a turn. And every time someone takes a turn, they have to make a die roll of some sort to determine how successful they are at whatever task they want to achieve as an ability check. And if they pass the ability check, they make progress towards the current challenge. A difficulty 5 needs 5 successes. If you hit difficulty 10, that's above 5, you defeat that challenge 5 in one shot. But because of the way that bounded accuracy and pacing works across levels, if a difficulty 5 DC 15 is a moderate challenge, like a first or second level, like first or second tier character, would be dealing with DC 12 to 21. 21 being incredibly difficulty, that'd be a difficulty of 7. What is it? It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then at 5th rank it's 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are the difficulty. Like, if I have a 5th rank, like a 17th level character should be dealing with ability challenges that range from 21 to 30. But here's the kicker. Whenever you use an ability to make an ability check, you can't use that ability again until you've used all of them. So like if I use my strength to push open a door, I can't use my strength again until I've gone through all my other stats. And we only have 3 stats. Like Numenera has 3 stats. It's might, skill, and grit. Might is, or power rather. Power is either strength, physical power, or charisma, which is like personal, spirit power, right? Like you have power of speech, as it were, is what charisma, or like your power of your presence. That's what charisma is. So you use power once, and then you don't have access to your strength or charisma again. Skill is dexterity and intelligence. And once you use your skill, you can't use dexterity or intelligence again. And then grit is wisdom and constitution. And once you've used all three of them, they all refresh, and you can use them all together. So you're constantly, the difficulty class doesn't need to be high in a lot of these circumstances, because your stat array is a -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you put a 3 in your strength, a 2 in your constitution, and a 1 in your dexterity, then you're going to have a power of 3. You'll have a skill of 1, and you'll have a grit of 2, +2, +1, +3, and they're divided into spirit and physical stats. So strength, dex, and con is physical. Intelligence, wisdom, and charisma is spirit. So there's two types of defense rolls that the team makes: physical defense and spirit defense. So the only time the team has to make a defense roll is when the world takes a turn. Otherwise, everything is direct consequences. Like, there's no attack rolls. There's an attack roll, but there's no damage roll. The damage roll is the result, scales off of the attack roll. So if I'm going to use a sword and I'm going to attack a bug, I'm going to say use my power. And if that's my strength, it doesn't matter if I'm using my charisma power or my strength power. I'm just using power to attack. So that allows for only 3. Like in Numenera, there's only 3 stats that you have to devote resources to. Instead of having resources to spend, it's availability. I can only use my power once. I can only use my skill once. I can only use my grit once. And once I've used all 3 of them, they all refresh. And then when the world has a turn, you're going to have to make a defense roll. You always make a defense roll. It's either going to be a spirit roll or a physical roll, depending on what the DM decides your challenge is going to be. So when the world takes a turn, and sometimes the world doesn't do anything, just the world takes a turn and you don't have to make any kind of defense. But if you make a defense roll, it's only on the turn. If you make an ability, like if you're attacking something like that sword swing against that bug, for instance, difficulty's a 5, I only got a result of 2. That means I failed by 3. That bug gets an opportunity attack that automatically hits and deals 3 points of damage to me. And I only get 5 hit points per level. So we have a healing salve kit, or a medicine kit, and anyone can use the kit at any time during their turn. It takes no effort to do so if you don't want to. What you'll do is you'll decide how many hit points you want to heal. Multiply that result by 3. If you hit that number or above, congratulations, you heal yourself for that many points of damage. If you fail the die roll, no one gets to heal at all anymore until next session. So now you're without healing. So the team will squeeze out 1, 2, or 3 points of healing whenever they don't have something better to do. They're constantly bandaging each other or salving themselves to help buffer their hit points, because they never know when they're going to fuck up their next die roll. Because the next time I hit you with like say you're fighting the bugs, and their eyes flash this weird mesmerizing color, and now you're being charmed. Give me a spirit defense roll, and you've used your might, so your charisma's gone. You've already used your skill, so your intelligence is gone. And that stupid fighter we were talking about before has a -2 in his wisdom. So you're rolling a d20 with a -2, and the difficulty we just set at 5. The difficulty is a 15. So you have to roll a 17 or better on a naked die. No, it has to be an 18 because you have to beat the 15, and all you have is a -2 modifier. So you're fucked. So you're gonna get hit, but you're most likely gonna get tagged by that hypnotism thing, and that hypnotism thing is gonna be like, you are compelled to walk off that cliff. And then when you do, you take 3 points of damage from the fall. And then if it's like an endless chasm, you drop and you catch yourself on the ledge, but you take 3 points of damage in the process. Now you're going to have to spend your next turn climbing your way out of it. That's the complication that you created for yourself because you couldn't succeed. But because that was the only die roll you had left, when you're at the bottom of the cliff, all of your stats reset, and now you have your strength, your strongest stat available for you to climb your way out. And since it was a complication of 3, all you have to do is roll a 10 or better. You're almost guaranteed to be able to hit that number, to be able to crawl your way back up to the top of the cliff and be able to carry on. If you fail the die check, either like you fall even further back, You cause rocks to shift. You get hit in the head and take maybe a point of damage or something. Or you create an additional complication. Now bats are attacking you while you're trying. Not only did you not make any progress climbing the cliff, but now you're being attacked by bats. So now like the fucking barbarian is off over there getting fucked with on the side of a cliff with bats while the rest of the team is trying to fight this, like this Umber Hulk that's doing all this hypnotism magic to fuck with your brain while you're trying to fight it. And like that's a guard. That's defending the queen from being fucked with by your team. So they get past the Umber Hulk, and now they have direct access to the queen, and they decide they want to puncture a hole in it to test the fluid, but they fucked up their check. They rolled a 2. So they fucked it up, and they ended up just causing this huge gash in the chrysalis that caused all the fluid to leak out. And all that's left is like this skeletal, icky, like partially formed bug that it's like Brundlefly after it failed to teleport. It's disgusting. And so they kill it because it's horrible. But now there's nothing controlling the swarm. And so that's how they had to figure out the flute. But it's like there's a number of ways. Like what you do is you just take the basic ability check system, and then you stack in a number of ways of being able to measure successes and failures, and it becomes an entire ability system that has both complications, reactions, opportunities, variable defenses, and because you're constantly having to rotate through the stats that you're using, there's no guarantee that you're going to have a good stat available for you to do what you want to do right now. But if that's what you need to do, you have a skill die. It's called an effort die. At first level, it's a D4. It eventually evolves into a D12 at 5th level. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There you go. So at 5th tier, when you've got because of levels or whatever, like maybe your strength is now a +5. And you've got a +6 bonus because you're proficient, like you have one skill that you're proficient with, either power, skill, or grit. Choose one to have proficiency with. So at 5th tier, if I have power as my proficiency and strength as my +5, I'd have a +11 to my power roll anytime I have power available. And if I want to, once per rotation, I have an effort die. I can use that effort die once per rotation. So once I get all my skills back, all my abilities back, I get my effort die back too. So at any time at that high level, I could just toss a D12 in to try to improve my results. So I can just add that to my ability check as like a kicker effect. So it's very possible for you to hit ridiculously high numbers if all your stats are lined up and your effort die is available. And other people can spend their effort while it's not their turn to help you. But it requires effort. So like if you haven't used your effort die, you can't help anyone because you don't have any effort available to help them. But when your effort is available, they can use that effort die to replace whatever die roll. Like if you're rolling a D8 and you roll a 7, chances are no one's going to chip in an effort die because they're not going to help you because their die roll is probably not going to actually help you do any better. So they just leave it be. And then you have the inspiration points that lets you re-roll D20s, and you can spend your guild resources to have as many inspiration die per session. But when you spend that resource, it's gone forever. You've spent it. You didn't invest it. You spent it. So the team currently, where they're second ranked guild right now, and where they're at right now, they generally get anywhere from 10 to 16 points every 10 days to spend on stuff. But if they want to expand territories, they have to permanently invest points into that. If they want to increase the rank of the guild, they have to permanently invest points into that. If they want to research something, they have to permanently spend those points. If they want to equip the team with inspiration points, or bringing the healing salve with them, that costs a point of resources to do so. Hiring an entire team costs resource points. So everything that the guild could possibly do or equip your team with costs resource points. And if you want to build a new team, it only costs 1 point per level of the team. Like a 0 level team costs 0 points. A 5th ranked team costs 5 points. But if you could decide to retire them and cash in their knowledge as a resource for your guild. So once your team gets to 5th level and they can't gain levels anymore, it only costs 5 points to build a 5th level team. But if you retire them, it gives you 25 points. So basically, you can, if you retire a team, you get as many resource points as adventures that they were on. So if you just buy a 5th level team, they're already capped, and they can't actually accumulate any more experience because they're already 5th level. So you could buy a 5th ranked team, but they'll never give you any experience back because they didn't learn anything. You bought them that way. As opposed to if you recruit a 0 ranked team for 0 points, and they spend 25 adventures getting to 25th level, getting to 5th rank. If you cash them in and retire them and add them to like your coaches or your administrative staff, then they're no longer adventurers, but they just gave your guild 25 25 resource points, which you could then spend on a 4th ranked team for 4 points. So you're up 21 points, and you now have a 4th ranked team that you can continue to accumulate points with. It would come in effectively at 16, so you need to accumulate another 9 adventures for you to take that 4th ranked team to 5th rank. And if you cash them out, you'd get 9 points that you could then cash in for a 4th ranked team and still retain 5. So, and that's on top of all the points that you get for harvesting asteroids and stuff every 10 days. So it's actually, it's kind of a mix of a Dominion plus episodic adventure where the team, like currently the team is fighting space squids and fightercraft. And they have these, here, let's see if I can give it to you real quick just because we're talking about it. Boatcast crab. This is not the thing. The thing that they're flying around, the ships that they're in right now is, there it is. This is the Veritex that we built for them. They're 25-foot frames, and all the characters are Warforged, so they had their docent plugged into these things. They're basically Gerwalkers, right? Like Veritex. They're like jets, but then you can uncurl arms and legs, and they all have axes and hammers and swords. So they have a ranged force damage weapon. We have far, near, and close. So they can deal combat. They can deal melee damage when you're close. You can deal range damage when an opponent is near, and then if they're far away, all you can do is track and potentially like target, like see them, but you can't actually attack them until you close distance. So they're flying around in these ships in this asteroid field, fighting like 100-foot space squids, like cuttlefish that look like asteroids. So they'll hide themselves as asteroids. And they're interested in eating meat, so they're hunting your mining crew that's on an asteroid. The team is trying to kill the squids before the miners find out about it, because if the miners find out that there was a threat that the guild didn't disclose, they'll have a strike on their hands, and their next adventure will have to be diplomats going in to try to negotiate a new deal with their mining crew, which if they fail will cost them resource points. They'll lose resources. So, and if they lose resources, they can't give their team inspiration or healing kits or extra spell books, etc. And when they go on their next mission, so they have to succeed at these tasks. So this is what they're fighting in space right now. So they built a team of Warforged. Their current delving team is gnomes and dwarves. They have 1 Warforged on their delving team right now. But when they built the fighter pilots to go fight space squids, they didn't know what they were going to fight. They just knew that the adventure that they pulled was there is some sort of threat in one of their mining territories that has to be resolved. Otherwise, the mining crew will go on strike. So their objective is to eliminate the threat before the mining crew becomes aware of them. Every round, the squids get closer to the miners. So if they can't take them out in the next 5 rounds, the miners have a chance of noticing them. And once they notice, they stop all operations, and they won't get any resources from that rock. And they're going to have to spend resources to get a diplomacy team. And then if they fail at diplomacy, they're going to lose a number of resources. So, and the way that we have diplomacy has been designed as a dungeon, where there's obvious channels or lines of communication that the team goes down that open up into rooms, and these dungeon rooms are like points, debate points. Like, we want better wages. That becomes a room in the dungeon that has a threat inside of it, which is forcing you to spend more resources every 10 days to keep your miners on board. And you have to defeat that enemy using diplomacy with your power, your skill, and your grit to overcome the obstacles of challenges and the diplomacy that they have, which could open up, say, if you roll really well, you might find like a secret door that opens up to a hidden goal that the guild might actually have. And the guild's goal might actually be for you to invest enough resources to be able to have more military ships so that you can provide more security, but it's going to cost you a shitload of resources to do it. So they're going to fight with you until you find out what their agenda really is, which is, we want you to escalate military so that we have more security in our area. And like the team is actually trying to work on research right now, so they're trying to enhance their arcana. They don't want to enhance their military right now. So if they fail at this mission, I'm going to make them invest points in things that they don't want to invest their points in right now. So it's a really fun way to, like, you can reshape different types of challenges in your game by reframing the narrative and the visuals around it. But it's all still just ability checks. And so far, it's so chaotic. Like you don't know if what skill is going to necessarily, like, you can control each round what ability you blow. But when the world takes a turn, you don't know what you're going to have to use in response. Because even though power, like, will use its best stat, if it's a spirit attack, you'll have to use your charisma. If it's a defense, if it's a physical defense, you'll have to use your strength. So you want to break up where your bonuses on your stats are at. So nothing's like, you don't want like all your dump stats to be in grit, because you're going to have to use grit 1 out of 3 times whenever you make a die roll. And if you have like a -2 and a -3 down there, you're guaranteed to have a dump stat. So generally what they're finding is like having a +3, +2, +1, coupled with a 0, -1, -2 somewhere, because that guarantees you're going to have at least a positive whenever you're attempting to do something. But when you're being hit by something, you've got a 50-50 chance of having a bonus or a penalty. So it's a really smart way to play defensively. But one of my characters decided to put a +2 and a +3 into might, because he knows that 1 out of 3 chances he's going to have a really good die roll, a really good chance of rolling well, and he wanted to have that working for him. So there's a number of different strategies to work around. It's kind of cool. And as it goes on, we'll be opening up more and more play testing and explore more and more space to see how things come along. But so far, it's been working really well. Let me call this number 4. But that's all to say. We were originally talking about soft versus hard magic systems, which led us. That came from the initial conversation about about the skilled checks for the characters that are inside of this adventure, having, depending on the level of success that you have in interrogating or talking with a character to discover what they actually know or why they're actually there versus why they say they're there. So it's D&D does, hold on, that's there and there. D&D does a really, really good job. Like the 5e system allows for that kind of flexibility. Like, you could have 3 questions in your interrogation, and depending, like, you've got like 3 different abilities that you could roll, and you've got 6 different skills you could check with. And of those, you have your 3 ability checks, and whatever information you get out of them, you get out of them. So everyone make their die rolls, and let's suss out what you can gather from that. And then you provide them the information that they get as a result of their die rolls. So, yeah, stacking narrative. That's been a thing that I've enjoyed for. I don't know if it's just that I've been exposed to a ton of game systems over the years. That it just made sense to naturally fold that sort of tiered success. Like, tiered success seems like such an alien thing for 5e when you're looking at D&D, but it's just tiered success just exists in every game. It's just how are you narrating it, which is why I say 5e is actually like the bounded accuracy of 5e is amazing for as a game engine. It's just that Wizards Dungeons and Dragons does a very poor job actually using it to its best ability. Just like everything else that I build. It pushes the boundaries. My stuff is designed to push the boundaries of why we use 5e game engine. And my underlying goal is, what can't we do with the 5e game engine. And so far, everything I've set out, every kind of narrative I've been looking to build with any kind of a game engine, I've successfully done with 5e. To me, it's the absolute best system out there. We're going to select inverse and then delete. There, nice clean pool. We'll fill this with water next. And we'll go down to the next one. I love 5e. I don't necessarily love WotC, but I love D&D. And I don't necessarily love WotC, but I love 5e. 5e and D&D to me is fantastic, but I don't use action economy the same way that Wizards of the Coast does. So my approach and my perspective about the game is pretty different. Select, modify, contract by 1. Select, modify, contract by 1. Delete. But yeah, it's a great system. I'll eventually put on ttrpg. It will not be a DMsGuild thing. That is for fucking sure. And it folds perfectly into the guilds and kingdom system that I've been slowly chewing on for fucking ever. Oh, that reminds me. I actually kind of wanted to pick at something today. So hold on. This is a good transition point. I think I want to take a break from this briefly and go play with new toys. So hey, what's going on? Yeah, it's going to be a super light system. When we do play, I'm hoping... I've got a Curse of Strahd game that I'm a player in every other week, but sometimes it gets canceled, so I'm trying to get them to let me run the alternate game. Like, when we have to cancel, let's have Phil run, and I'm going to use... I don't know what it's called yet. But I was originally thinking Try Hard, but that's a horrible name. I'll come up with something clever eventually. But I'm hoping they fire it up. And so when I do a playtest, what I want to do is have a session 0 where there's no expectations. Like, what kind of genre do we want to play? There's always a guild organization that the players control, and then they're building adventuring parties to execute tasks for that guild. So the way that we'll do it is we'll have a the team will decide what genre do you want, like Western or fantasy or sci-fi or whatever, and then what kind of a guild do you want to have inside of that fantasy world, and then inside of that guild, what kind of creatures or characters do you want to represent the population of it, and then that'll build the framework for the different type of characters that you can play, and then the scaffolding for gaining levels and stuff always stays the same because it's always just modifying die rolls. There's that skill die I was talking about, that effort die. There's professions, and there's like ancestry or whatever. There's race and profession. Fuck you. So a race has free effort when they make an observation of something. And there's 3 things. There's persons, places, and things, or like creatures, objects, and locations. So, like dwarves. In this campaign, we have Warforged, gnomes, and dwarves. Dwarves have free effort when they observe environments. Warforged gain free effort when they observe things like items and tools. And gnomes get free effort when they observe creatures, like habits, speech patterns, and stuff like that. That skill die, you get that skill die at second rank. It's a D8, and you only get it once when you go through an ability score cycle. So like I could have my might and then use my effort die, so my skill and my grit can't use effort unless I get free effort on something. So a dwarf character is going to lean into however often they can make this about environment, they want to do that. But it's only for observations. Like I want to observe the environment, like the bug colonies. Like what can this environment tell us about this bug colony? I'm going to make a die roll. and I'll know the difficulty is 5, for instance. Well, we'll say gleaning information about this is a difficulty of 5. Okay, great. I rolled a 21. Well, that is 7 off of the 5. So that's a success by 2. So maybe I give you 2 pieces of information about the environment your character didn't know, and they got to roll the skill die for free because they get free effort when they're making observations, as opposed to, and then the classes have different advantages. Like whenever I manipulate, like the espionage character, the spy. Whenever the spy characters interact or manipulate objects, they get free effort to do so, like picking locks, disarming alarm systems, noticing security grid stuff, forging documents, cracking safes, blah, 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 stuff like that. They get free effort. The Delver gets free effort whenever they interact with an environment. Like that barbarian hanging off of the cliff. I want to interact with my environment. I want to use my grit to climb the cliff. Can I use, would that qualify for me interacting with the environment? Well, yeah, you're climbing a wall. Of course, that's the environment. It's like, great, I get free effort. So when I get to the top of the cliff, next turn, I can use my skill and my effort die to throw my axe at that bug's face and hopefully kill it. That's how you can do that. So the races or species or whatever, generally there's 3 of them, and you have each one of them can gain free effort when they use one of their ability sets, and then the classes. So there's observing, and then there's interacting, and combat can be any kind of interaction, as long as you can justify it. Like, I'm going to shoot that guy. Well, I'm shooting that guy. Where are you shooting him? Well, I'm going to use my expertise in anatomy and creature interaction. I'm going to shoot him in the spleen, because I know that's going to make him double over, and it's going to take him out. Great, you shoot the spleen. Awesome, it does what I want. I used my awareness, my free effort to interact with a creature to be able to pick apart their anatomy. Somebody else could have used their laser pistol to shoot stalactites off the roof, to attack the environment, to cause stalactites to fall on their target to deal damage that way. And they'll get free effort from that because they're attacking the environment. And then there's environment items like the Warforged. You say, I'm going to overclock my laser and and hopefully deal more damage with it. And so you can then use your effort die because you're cycling up the damage on the weapon to get that extra die roll to be able to hit with it. And as long as your Warforged, your Warforged can always pack heat really well, because you can just keep doing that over and over again every round. So they have Warforged in all the mecha that are fighting space squids, so they're constantly overclocking their object interaction so that they can deal more damage with their weapons, which is them leaning into the narrative of their characters. So the design of the character actually complements the design of the encounter and the challenges that they're facing by giving them added advantages, by cherry picking what they wanted to play to match the challenge that they're facing, which causes them to create a second team. So they now have a delving team and they have a fighter team, a squadron of fighter ships that they use to patrol with. So now they have these 2 different adventuring teams that are accumulating separate experience together. So they can swap between, and then if they get into this diplomacy thing, they'll build envoys that can act as diplomats to negotiate with their own team or other organizations, or whenever a diplomacy mission comes up, they'll have a specialist team to go do diplomacy stuff to interact with people. So it's really cool. It's a really fun way of being able to, kind of like East March, where you have one player with multiple characters, like a character tree, that are specialized in different tasks that can be performed. So as challenges arise, as the guild gets new challenges, the team can decide how they want to deal with it and who they want to send to deal with it. So they have the choose, like, this is going to be an espionage or a diplomacy challenge. Which one do you want to do? Well, if you go with espionage, your risk is getting information or resolving problems without anyone knowing you're there. But if you fail, then you're exposed, and that's going to cause complications, and that you're not going to get trusted by the people you're with. If instead you send in diplomacy, if you fail, you might not get what you want, but you're building trust because you're working in an open attempt to relationship as opposed to subterfuge. So there's gains and disadvantages to each option, how to resolve a threat. And then they just decide which threat they want to resolve and how they want to resolve it. And then they build a team, they equip the team XCOM style, and then they go attack the adventure. And any challenge could take anywhere from 2 to 6 hours to resolve. So it's all built around one-shots. So pretty fucking fun. Anyway, I'm on a blank screen right now. I don't personally like what 5e currently is, but I do like some small aspects of it. Yeah. Like I don't like neither do I. It's too rigid and it's too plentiful in resources, honestly. I feel like something like Dragon Age Inquisition would be very good for this. I don't know, is that a game? I don't know what kind of a game that is. But I wanted to take a quick tangent looking at the guild system that we've been working on. Let's go here real quick. I have a list on my YouTube channel. It's a playlist called In Command. This is where the mass combat rules we have in the this is the Guilds and Kingdoms. It used to be In Command of Armies, Guilds, and Kingdoms, but I broke it up into Guilds and Kingdoms as well as Squads and Armies. And the Squads and Armies book is where my Spelljammer book came from, and that all the rules for mass combat exist inside the squadron and fleet mechanics of my Spelljammer book. And anyone that's not familiar with it can kick down here. Here's the Spelljammer book on DMsGuild. But all the rules for mass combat exist inside of the fleet and squadron ship system. It's just in this it's limited to only ships. In the full document that we've been building, it works for level 1 characters commanding peasants all the way up through 20th level commanding, legions of starships. It works at all levels. We actually play tested it by playing Descent into Avernus with the team going around defeating challenges and gaining allies to accumulate a larger army that was large enough eventually to be able to keep demons from climbing into Elturel, so they could use Elturel as a base of operations to build more stuff with. And they eventually got spelljamming ships and fought Zariel as spelljamming ships, and that's after August 2022. That's when we tested that stuff. But it all worked perfectly well, so we built the Spelljammer book, which fucking rocks. But so we have the Guilds and Kingdoms is one segment, and then we have armies, and then we have Squads and Armies is the other component. And both of these are probably not going to go on the DMsGuild. I will probably DTRPG and Patreon those. But the guild system, it uses the same guild mechanic of stacking up dice, first rank, second rank, third rank, fourth rank, fifth rank, using dice. The guild can resolve anything in a single ability check. It's called an industry check. You add your die roll plus your rank to a d20, and that is your result. For example, a third rank guild that invests that's right. If I invest 4 resources, it's considered a second rank effort. So I get I could have a 5th rank guild, but if it's only willing to invest into a second rank effort, then it's only going to get a d6 die roll. It'll get the +5 because it is 5th rank, but they only invested 4 points of resources right now into performing the task. So they'd roll in this case, a 3rd rank guild has a +3, but they only put in enough points for a 2nd rank effort. So they'd roll a d20 +3 plus d6 to hit the target number that they need. And if they succeed, they just automatically succeed, because the team relegated that act. Like for example, there could be an espionage mission and a military mission that the team could choose from in this next 10-day period. They can only choose one. So whichever one they choose, they will run as their adventure, and the other one gets resolved by the guild as a single die roll. If the die roll fails, same rules apply. If the die roll fails, it creates a new complication off of that military operation. Like a bugbear, like a hobgoblin, a fleet of hobgoblin scorpion ships is invading one of our pieces of territory, and we attempted to use military to drive them away, but the NPC guild failed the die roll, and a player will roll the die. So say you failed by 2. So you failed by 2. Not only have you not gotten rid of the threat, but you've actually made it bigger. They're now spreading into another territory. So you have like a threat 5 in territory A, and now in territory B, you have a threat level 2, both of them being hobgoblin invaders that are attempting to steal all your ore, and your miners are now revolting. So now you have the original military threat, you have a secondary military threat, and you've just introduced an additional diplomacy threat because your miners will not mine resources anymore until this is resolved. Meanwhile, your characters are off performing an espionage mission. If that succeeds, great, you do whatever you need to do. But if they fail, like if they're team TPKs, then you fail that mission. It's as though the guild had failed the die roll, and TPK is perfectly realistic. So it's just the team has come very close. We've only had 3 adventures so far, and they came close to dying each time, but each time they were able to succeed, which is fine by me, because they have 3 other threats that they're currently dealing with beyond the one that they're currently working on. It's like, it's just like any other good campaign, the threats keep stacking up, and they can merge together to become bigger threats as they gain levels. Like a 7th level threat is too much for where they're at right now, but if they gain a tier, if they increase their guild rank, I can then take that 5 net 2 and I can combine it into a rank 7 threat that they'll then have to deal with. So it's the math is so simple, but the narrative expression of it is so vast that you can rebuild it in any way. And the narrative stays fresh because you have these different modes of adventure, of like direct combat, dealing hit point damage, espionage, where you're actively attempting to keep everything at a low level of alert. So like every time you ratchet up the challenge rating, it's because the organization is more, the target is more suspicious that it's being spied on, so it becomes more and more aware that there's a threat. So your job is to try to achieve your mission without blowing those die rolls. So you can approach and like the diplomacy is like that dungeon space of word traps and logic logic mysteries and secret agendas that gets expressed as a dungeon. And then there's delving, which is exploring asteroid space and either fighting monsters on a 1x1 level or something else. So you have all these different types of adventure, and you're constantly rotating between what they are and the threats that you're chasing inside of them. So there's as vast an array of opportunity to have different types of adventure as you would expect in any other fully realized role-playing game, except the engine is literally identical for everything that you do. It's just expressed in very different ways, so it feels different. But the mechanic becomes so familiar, like, fuck, all I have is skill available right now, and that's my dump stat. And I have to hit a fucking I have to roll like an 18 on this, and I've got a -2. Good fucking luck. Can someone help me with some extra dice? Like it's fun. It's fun. Anyway, so this is the guild system that all that stuff was built on. This is an alpha document. You can actually access it through my Patreon, and it is unnecessarily complicated. I started this project over a year ago, and I've been slowly digesting it. With this new game system, it's been helping me really break down and simplify how to do stuff. So the specialists was the precursor to the guild, to these adventure characters that we have in the system right now. Let me get to here, and here. So we have all these different tasks that guilds can perform based on their industry of commerce, health, lore, loyalty, military, and religion. And specifically what I'm looking at in this instance that anyone can use in their D&D campaign almost right away is crafting and construction. So I have some pretty complicated rules here for building stuff in general, as well as like magic item creation. But I want to simplify this. So building structures, creating magic items, like you can use lore or religion as your industry of creation, so whatever your rank of your organization is. Temporary versus permanent magic items. I'm still working on this, but it's too complicated already. What I found is a way to simplify it pretty well. You've got uncommon items, you've got common items, you've got uncommon items. I'm gonna hit the button, thank you. Rare, very rare, and then we got legendary items, right? And then we've got first rank, second rank, third rank, fourth rank, fifth rank guild. There's 2 ways to break down time. A real easy way is a first rank guild, which would be like 2 or 3 people, like in a shop. It takes 1 day to be able to fashion a common magic item, like a healing potion, or like a scroll of identifying, for example. That'd be uncommon. That would be just a very small, just like a first level disposable magic item would be common. This could also classify as very inexpensive items, like a chair, for instance. And then you have uncommon, which takes a week. And it's too difficult. Uncommon magic items are too difficult for a first rank guild to produce, but a second rank guild can. So we have a week. Rare is too difficult for a first or a second rank to produce, but a third rank can, and it takes a month to do it. A very rare item is too difficult for anything other than a fourth or fifth rank guild to do, and it takes a season. And then legendary can only be produced by the highest of guilds, fifth rank guilds, and it takes a year to produce it. There's the other system that I like, which is a day equals 1 day, a week equals 10 days, a month equals 40 days, a season equals 90 days, and then a year does not equal 160 days. So if you just wanted to, depending on the scope of your campaign, it might be reasonable to have things measuring out in years. But it's also very reasonable for like a Dominion style D&D campaign to pace out at the rate of 1, 10, 40. So when your guild is creating a magic item, let's see. Common equals 1 resource point. Uncommon requires 4. Rare equals 9. Very rare equals 16. And legendary artifact equals 25. This is the number of resources that you have to tie up for that amount of time. So like if I have a guild, a 5th rank guild that's creating a legendary magic item, it's going to permanently lock in. Like I'm going to permanently lose 25 resource points for an entire year while this is being built. When I make my die roll, it's 5th rank guild. It has a D12, D20 plus 5 plus D12 to determine my result. And the difficulty of doing so, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So a 5th rank guild has a 25 points that are spent. They roll a D20 plus 5 plus D12. So they could get a potential total of 37. They could roll a 37. They need a 30 or above a 30. They have to roll above a 30. So the 31 through 37 is a success. If they roll below that, they have to spend additional time, and it will take another season for them to roll again, and it reduces the die roll. So they already did a year of work. It's coming along. It's not done yet. We need some more time. Now all we need is a season with a DC 25, but we're still operating as a 5th rank guild. If they fail the die roll, we should have it done in just another month, and the die roll is only a 20. D20 plus 5 plus D12. And then if we failed that, then it's only a week. We only need a week. And then from there, the difficulty is just 10 per day. Like any day now, it's going to be, oh, great, it's done. So that's how you can pace out building stuff. Players can do the exact same thing. An individual player would have the ability to make a craft check in this frame of time to build this stuff. But we have the guild system, so you can just relegate NPCs to do it during down and adventuring time. But if you want to invest adventuring time, I would recommend going with this structure. Like this might be the structure you use for your guild, but this should be the time frame that you use for your character. So at best, your character is spending 160 days. So you could also rule with this, like for every result higher than 30, you reduce the time by 1 day. So like if your character then like pours in bardic inspiration, for instance, for an extra D12, and like say you get a 45, which is 15 above the 30 that you needed, instead of 160 days, you can get done, say, in 145 days, for instance. So that's a very rudimentary, simple game system that allows you to do this stuff. I know that people would want to have access to artifacts quicker than that, but that doesn't mean that like when you're hunting, like when you want the artifact for like Thor's hammer, for instance, maybe when you find Thor's hammer, you don't just find the artifact. You were expecting to partially have to construct it. This task may have already been done, and maybe it's at the point where it's down to a monthly basis. So your characters would only have to spend a month to be able to actually complete the task, and it would only be a d20 to do so. So they took all that time to get the hammer, but it's not actually complete. Or like maybe in one of the legends it was destroyed, so you actually have to repair it. And while that repair process had been on, repairing would be the next tier down, right? Minimum of 1 day. So maybe it was being repaired, but that repair hadn't been completed, so now you have to repair it. It could only take maybe a week for you to finish repairing it. So then you would have access to the artifact. There's a lot of ways you can juggle that stuff, but this is a very, very simple system to be able to set that up. It's a lot simpler than I think what we had going on here overall. Oh yeah, here's material costs that go along with creating items. We'll simplify all this text and replace it, but for now, I'm just dropping this new chunk in here. I'm gonna label this as simple revision magic items. There. Cost materials. I think we're going to see I think the DMG is going to have stuff for us on this in 2024, but crafting potions and consumables are half cost. Crafting magic items, crafting cost 50, 200, 2,000, 20,000, 50, 200, 2,000, 20,000. What is this? Is this 50? No, 100,000. Materials, resources. There. That's the basic setup. That's a simple scaffold that anyone can use to build any kind of item that you want, as long as the material costs. And then half for consumables. Double the material cost equals purchase price, if available. There are megapolises, there's cities, there's towns, there's villages, and there's settlements. So the difficulty, the tier of item that you can build is mainly going to be focused around the size of the community. So, community. Metropolis. City, town, village, and settlement. Like any witch doctor can make a potion of healing, or be able to craft some runes to be able to identify magic when it's around. Very basic consumable magic items, right? As well as like very basic trinkets, like a Quall's feather token or something might be a common item. Uncommon stuff, you need to have a village. They'll have enough resources to be able to have enough manpower to be able to create something. But if you want something legendary, you're talking about like metropolis resources, like kingdom moving stuff. So anyway, that's a super quick, simple, broke down. Everything is contained inside of here. So let's call that difficult DC. There you go. Simple, barely an inconvenience. Let's swap this. Magic item rarity. Resource invested, duration of construction, ish. it breaks down at that 160 point. But for the most part, that kind of lines up with the amount of resources you're spending. So actually, that 16, 10, yeah, that's where it breaks, 160. I'm okay with that. And 60, that'd be like 2 seasons? Half a year? That seems a little weird, half a year. I'm okay with that. Yeah, so anyway, that's where we're at right now. You can either go with the known calendar cycles or you can just go with days. It probably should be a year. We'll make it a year. Because the 10 days to 40 days, that's a multiplier by 4, and then 1 season to 1 year, that's a multiplier by 4. I think that's fair. That feels fair. And then from month to season is a multiplier by 3, so it's generally 3 or 4, except for that 1 day to the week. That breaks the consistency. But I'm not gonna require it to take 2 days to brew a potion. Fuck off. That's stupid. It should be 1 day, and however many resources you invest is how many potions you can make. A character perhaps would be able to invest a number of resources equal to their proficiency bonus. For example, like maybe a 9th level master brewer with a proficiency bonus of 4 would be able to create up to 4 healing, like basic common healing potions in a single day. Like here's your 2d8, like 4 potions doing 2d8 each, for instance. As long as you have access to the resources that you need and you're willing to spend the money, which would be 25 a pop, it would cost you 100 gold and 1 day to produce 4 healing pots that would heal up to 8d8 worth of damage and 2d8 chunks. So like that's a very, very basic crafting system that legitimately hits the marks and folds into the system that we're building. So I just thought I had that inspiration last night, so I wanted to share that today. Let's drop that back down here. And what time is it? It's 11 o'clock? Oh, sweet. Here. All right, back to work. Tangent over. That's a turn-based party adventure game. Story's kind of complicated, but a lot of the game play loop is what you described. Oh, cool! Right on. So it's a role-playing game, and it's called Dragon Age Inquisition. I will check that out, because if that is something I should be aware of, I should be aware of it. Especially like if I don't know what its game mechanics are like. I don't want to just steal somebody else's game mechanics. That'd be lame. But if it's similar, but I have a different resolution mechanic, that's awesome. That means that there is. I mean, like I'm basically calling this like a Numenera light system. Like it exists inside of like a space between Shadow Dark and Numenera. Like that's kind of where the game design that I have for this thing is at right now. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's start laying in some crystals. Okay, so this is a you can see here all this grit that's laying around on the soil around these puddles. That is the coffee grind results of the plane of the necrotic energy of Mabar rotting away the soil and making it lifeless. It basically turns it into used coffee grounds. So this is the brush that I use to create those effects. And you can see here, most of these are like at the 40, like the 35-40 pixel size. But you can see here, like it's going up to It's going up to 60 here. So basically anything from range of 30 to 60. You can see here that matches up. So that's like that's a size of 30 there. And you can see here, wait, edge it. That lines up like that, 30, 30. So that's what we're doing right now. So I'm just grabbing that color, dropping these out of the way, and we're gonna start adding in some grit. And what'll end up happening is we'll end up doing that. Doubling, like selecting then doubling over everything. So it looks a little fainter right now than how it'll actually end up. And then we want to mind our border. So I'm going to be doing some grit here for a while. That is interesting. I am looking forward to learning more about that. But yeah, I will happily tell you about it once it's up and running. It'll probably be another few months before I open up another team to play test it. So I want to get through a few different character tiers before we see if there's any kind of problems. And like armor adds to your physical defense, right? And then you can have like you can have psychic wards to increase the die roll for your mental defenses, which your characters have to be kitted out with when they go on an adventure. So it costs you resources each time that you equip your team with abilities, and you can have each character gets a random, like that randomized spell process from Maze Rats we were talking about earlier. Each character has one. But the team could spend additional inspiration points to kit in a second spell, because like once you use the spell, like the healing salve, the difficulty of the task is set by the current challenge that you're using your spell to resolve. And if you succeed the check, congratulations, you did the thing that you said. If you fail the die roll, you lose the spell until the next session. But spells is a way to to create a spontaneous resource that the team might not otherwise have access to be able to like BS different types of solutions, right? Because that's ultimately what the system does. It's like, tell me what you're doing, what kind of a die roll are you using to do it, and let's see if you succeed. And if you do, the DM will tell you what the great results are that you produced as a result of your effort. And if you fail, the DM will hit you with some sort of complication, or you'll immediately take damage from an opportunity attack for failing whatever it was that you're trying to do. First thing we do is we we completely saturate the area so everything gets covered in the grit, and then we erase some of it, and then we'll add more back into the empty patches. So it doesn't have to be 100% covered, like we have that little gap there. That's perfectly acceptable. the great thing what I love about this thing that I'm building is that it's 100 like you saw, it's 100% compatible with like normal D&D 5e as written. It's just an alternate skill challenge system that can be implemented into any Pathfinder can use it, Shadow Dark can use it, D&D 5e can use it, Pathfinder 2e and 1e, Starfinder, like all these D20, like any game that's roll a 20-sided die, add the results, add modifiers, check for results. Any of them can use this. It's just it's a way to be able to quick hand and minimize the mechanical effort of running an organization or a kingdom. It works at any scale, which is another feature of most of the stuff that I do, in that it's scalable to any magnitude, like any magnitude of story or narrative or adventure or campaign that you want to run. But it is not my primary project right now. This Eberron adventure is my primary project. Oops. Let's do like that. So what do I got on my workbench? I've got this Eberron adventure as my primary. We'll be starting up once after we see the monk on Monday. We'll be able to finish up the revisions to the martial powers system, and then we'll be ready for 5th and 6th level playtesting. That'll be my secondary project. So this Eberron adventure is my primary, the martial powers project, and then revising the color mana spell point variant rules for 5e24. That's my next set, and then I also have the Spelljammer adventure, Vocast Battle Crab Fleet Battle, the Warforged and Machines, basically building mecha and kaiju for 5e, using the Spelljammer mechanics that we already have published. And then we have, at that point, we can start looking at the Guilds and Kingdoms book, and then from there, whatever this thing that this game system that I'm playtesting, whatever that ends up being. So that's this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll start getting to the guild stuff, and that's our 6th project. So we're looking at like late 2025, 26, where we're going to be making that our primary project probably. This will hopefully be done in November. And we'll be continuing to playtest martial powers through that time. Like I suspect we'll be back up to doing 5th level martial powers playtesting probably the last week, maybe the first week of August. We'll build out a new hex in the Robobelt land crawl with that's adjacent to the one that the team last conquered. And it'll be a new scenario with new monsters and different hazards and magical effects that the team will have to deal with, but they'll have 5th level resources instead of 4th level resources, so they'll have access to a whole additional rank of power, and they'll have more cheat mechanics in, so like they can exchange attacks for additional mana to be able to do more maneuvers for free. It should be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to it. The last batch was a hell of a lot of fun. I really enjoyed those adventures. They were cool. But I just like running games. It's just doing stuff like that is fun in general. I really value playtesting because my home tables are always 250 hour, 100 like level 1 to 20 5e hard grind campaigns, and I've ran 3 of those in a row now. So like me getting into playtesting to be able to have like little shorter, less serious sessions is a blessing for me. Honestly, it's really allowing me to rejuvenate my my plot engine, as it were. I would still love to do a full Spelljammer Descent into Avernus campaign, and I'd also love to run Tyranny of Dragons using the mass combat system that we have. And to that point, I'd love to run Dragonlance. I actually got the Dragonlance board game, so I have all the scenarios. So in the future, if I'm bored and I'm looking for content to do, I'll probably just convert the entire Dragonlance campaign into a mass combat system where your characters are in command of a legion of I forget the name. It's not Solona. Damn it, I've forgotten the name of the country offhand. It'll come to me eventually. Apparently, I don't need it right now. But your characters would be in command of a legion, and all the optional battle encounters in the board game we'd convert to mass combat battles for your characters. And then there's like the cottage battle with the inventor, and like the parade day encounter, like all these options for mass combat. We have simple, fast mechanics to make those things work, and we ran a number of scenarios with them. They consistently run well, so it's a good system. It's just I don't have a studio or the personal bandwidth to be able to produce them any faster than I do, which is ultimately my failing. Like I'd say my biggest problem is that I don't have a crew. But maybe I can eventually, if I can evolve into Patreon and Kickstarter stuff, I'd be able to start doing this stuff with a crew. I could like hire on people to work with me like from the get-go instead of it having to be all my own efforts. I would love to get to that place. I think that'd be a worthy endeavor. I'm not 100% sure on what the path getting there is, but if it's the right idea for me, I have faith that my muse already knows how to do it, and that she's going to be feeding me ideas through intuition over the next 2 or 3 years to get me to that place. If that's what I'm supposed to do. If she's content with this just being a side hustle where I just get to talk shit to people on camera and dab at art tokens and stuff. If this is all my fate is meant to be, then I will accept that as my fate. But I am not fencing myself off to like this is all I do. I am very open to the idea of expansion and getting to the place where I've got a full machine that's helping punch out content. That would be exciting. I would love that. We'll see. We'll see how the world evolves for me. What I'm supposed to become. See how nicely all this stuff just kind of clicks together? It's a good brush. It's I built this brush from an image of a fractal cauliflower. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think this might literally be the one that I used. You can see that patterning there. So I took that, I polarized it so it's black and white. I inverted it so these geomorphic shapes are white and the shadow in between were black. That the cauliflower is white and all the shadow effect became black. And then I just extracted it into a brush. See? I just took a chunk, like the chunk out of this area here, and that's what it morphed into. And now I can bend it into shapes and make it all fold together smoothly. But I wanted a brush that I could do like this recursive patterning with as grit on the ground, and so so my muse inspired me to think about fractals. So I found the fractal cauliflower, and then the rest is bacon. I can just let it flow from one object to the next across the grid here. Nicely, this all folds together like that. But I've got about 40 minutes left, and I'm probably gonna be stippling like this for the full 40 minutes. I'm here like 10 times per week, Monday through Friday in the morning, in the AM here in Seattle, like 6:30ish. I put on about an hour or so of Eberron art like this, creating tokens, maps, characters, and then once we get into the layouts, we'll start doing spot art on the pages. We already have the book cover. So this project is well matured into in the pipeline and on its way to being done. And then on Tuesdays and Fridays at lunchtime, I continue developing the Martial Powers project. We've just updated the Ranger to comply with 2024. What we know of it so far, anyway. We'll have to take another look at the subclasses when they get released. But I'm pretty confident that the stuff that we have is going to work. And then on Monday, when the monk gets released, we'll start converting all that stuff on Tuesday, and then on Friday, and hopefully by the following Tuesday, maybe on Saturday next weekend, we'll be working on the monk as well. But we'll see how swiftly we can resolve all that content. And then we'll start recruiting for 5th and 6th level playtesting, and I'll start building the new hex tile for the new environment for the next adventure, and then we'll go 5 and 6, and then next hex 7 and 8, next hex 9 and 10, and since the book will be publishing in September, that playtesting, assuming 5 week runs between each, we'll have 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 will be in August, September, October. So playtesting should be done in October. We're thinking this project's going to get done in November, so we'll start switching gears to finishing this. And all my like on Mondays and Thursday nights right now, I build Spelljammer ship deck plans. But once the Martial Powers system gets done with playtesting, we'll be shifting Monday and Thursday nights to building the book cover, along with start building character assets, tokens, and looking at preliminary page setup. I'm thinking by December, the text of the book will be completed, and maybe we can get edits back and get into page layouts by January, and then starting to put the book together with the artwork in February. So probably March next year, the Martial Powers book will publish. And since that'll be our primary project, we can start picking away at the color mana system on the side. That will hopefully be resolved in May. And then the Knights and Tricksters book, Point Warlocks, expanded spell list, Point Sorcerers, Point Artificers. That will all resolve hopefully by end of 2025. We may be able to sprinkle in some Spelljammer stuff along the way. And if all that folds into place, by 2026, we can start working primarily on the guilds and kingdoms, squads and armies, and whatever this role-playing game ends up shaping itself out to be. And I can start looking at running those, like putting that all on Patreon, and Drive Through RPG as like 5e adjacent system stuff. And then I can use my Patreon to then expand on, like, convert all the Ravnica guilds and into the guild system that I use, and like the dragon mark houses of Eberron, I can convert those into guild system as well. So the DM would have that as a resource, but it would give reason for people to want to hang out on my Discord or on my Patreon more, to be subscribers, like have content be available like a month earlier for subscribers and other people, or whatever, something like that. Thinking about the future, basically we're starting, those ideas are starting to bend into like 2027. And by then I'll probably be able to monetize this channel and have AdSense coming through, and then we can use it as a platform to promote the different things that we're building to drive traffic into the Patreon, and which we can then use to fund Kickstarters, so I can start hiring a crew, so we can start collapsing the time frame on all these things. So as opposed to some very prominent YouTube personalities, the stuff that I build, I actually built and know it works before I ask people to pay me money for it. I'm slinging mud and punching up a little bit, but if you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. But the reason why all the stuff that I have on DMsGuild is so, the reason I give so much of it away in the preview of it is to start creating a conversation about the quality of work that I produce and the scope, like literally the scope and span of ideas that I have, and then have a number, like numerous, like a dozen successes underneath my belt in producing the things that I say I'm going to do, and then end up actually being able to execute the things that I say that they can do, as a demonstration of when I actually get into Kickstarters. Like, here's all this shit on DMsGuild you can see. I'm just doing more of that stuff with a non-IP bound brand. So if you want to see more of that stuff, support me here, and then, you know, there you go. But all the work that I've been doing on DMsGuild so far has basically just been a very long-tailed advertisement to the quality of design work that I do. And I'm using it all basically as a massive loss leader over time to put faith in my ability as a designer to create stuff that's worth consuming. And if I start getting into Kickstarter stuff, I can start actually building like print books that people can have mailed to them. But if I do that, it's going to only be black and white art, because I don't see color. So it's really sketchy whether or not the print proofs will come looking like the digital proofs do. So it's that's a really dangerous space for a colorblind painter. But we'll see what the muse has me do. I've been wanting to drop down into doing line art for my books for a while, because I'm so fast at doing line art. That it would be compelling for me to use just ink and pencil as opposed to color, because it would just so dramatically reduce the time frame for me to be able to finish artwork. Or maybe I can develop a style where I'm using a color wash and then like a contrasting color for the line art, so I could still be basically operating in pen and ink, but it would be colored in a limited palette, so it's not, I don't have to worry about like deep Magic the Gathering quality art on each page, because although I can achieve that level, it takes me like 80 hours per illustration, and I don't want to invest that kind of energy into a piece of spot art. And stock art is basically going to become a non-issue with AI here probably in the next 5 years. By the time I'm ready to start building this stuff, AI art will have taken over, and there's no reason for me to make stock art or expect commissions from any sort for artwork in the future. So I want to shift my effort towards the different types of ideas I can create, and then simplify the art process so it becomes more, maybe a more dynamic style that I can blend easier with the text. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sensing that change though, and I want to acknowledge and pay honor to it, since it's letting itself be known. This is too small. Proper. I got about a half hour left. Yeah, 20 minutes. We're on our last 20-minute mark, so I'm just gonna keep creeping the crystals around. But a year ago, I was talking about finishing the Spelljammer book and then creating a number of supplemental projects with it. And if you check my streams, that there are a number of side Spelljammer pieces that I'm working on to lean into that book. And I've got 6 color mana books out right now. The Martial Powers book will be the 7th. And so that's executing on the supplemental upkeep of game systems that I build, which is another promise that I made that I've been able to keep. I'm actually really proud of all those accomplishments. I don't really think about them in the moment, but when I sit back and I look at it, it's like I am actually following through on everything I said that I was going to do. So I'm really, really proud of that. It's just, you know, it takes time to do it. That's the only real factor in the equation. These little overlaps like that, these are the ones that end up volunteering for being erased and then replaced. Little grit marks like that. See, you just double it down and it becomes as dark as the other ones. See, matches now. And it also gets a lot thicker, so that's why we want to erase chunks of it so it lightens up. Excuse me. Haganaga for reals. Do. Goblin, thanks for spending some time. I appreciate it. $30 pixels. My hair's wilted. It's fucking muggy today, dude. Even Seattle is like in the 80s. That's not normal. Well, it is July. If 80 degrees extends beyond August, it would be considered unusually hot in the Pacific Northwest. There's something weird going on with my throat. There is something weird happening to me. We're going to full up here probably in the next few minutes. I think I got 10 minutes left. I'm not sure if I'm going to have all this grit covered in that time. It's going to get close. It's going to get super, super close. Let's see if I can hit it. I bet I can get there. I bet I can get this finished by the time the bell goes off. Kind of sad there's no more seasons of Infinity Train. The first season was by far the best, and just kind of getting. The second season was okay. Third was worse. It was definitely just like cleaning stuff up for 2 seasons. But I would just the first season of Infinity Train was so. It was like, what the fuck is going on? It was so fun. It was like Lost, but it had a payoff. Here, 35, good. Not bad. Oh yeah, oops, I just locked up. And hit save. Close that. I'm gonna relaunch it. Right off the end of the map. I don't know where it ends. Somewhere off in the distance beyond the fog. Oh, hit it, Matt. Dunzo. All right, so when we come back, we'll be back on Monday. We're going to carve up the grit and repatch it so it's pleasantly uneven. We still have so we still have the water effect to do for all of them, and then they'll be done. These are vignette pieces that we lay into the overall environment. We have a general soil environment map. We've got various plant tokens that can be scattered across places. This will be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. There'll be a total of 7 puddles that can be dropped in. We're going to, after we finish this, we're going to be working on a little dilapidated gazebo. And then we're going to build a tree, the Tree of Woe. It's one of the optional encounters. And then we're going to do tiled flagstone paths through the mud. And so we have these puddles to finish, a gazebo to do, a tree to do, flagstone paths to do. And then we'll have a forest clearing map and a forest camp location map. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So we have 6 more map vignettes to do. I think then we need to check back in on the standalone farming homesteads, make sure that those have been properly furnished. And so that'll be 7, 8, 9. So yeah, we have 9. We have 9 more maps that occupy a 20 by 20 or smaller inch space. That won't be too difficult for us to complete. Then we have a couple more monster token and NPC tokens that we need to build. We should be into layouts at that point, so we might be stacking up Monday through Friday as well as Saturday and potentially even like Monday night. We're going to be playtesting Martial Powers on Monday night eventually. So Thursday we might just be doing like all artwork on Eberron all the time in the evening as we get into the home stretch to push ourselves forward. So we're doing good. So that's it for today. I'm going to go ahead and kick out of here now. I'm going to continue working on our text edits for the Eberron adventure that this goes with. We'll be back on Monday morning. Monday night, we will be doing more Spelljammer stuff. Tuesday morning, Tuesday lunch, Bard, monk revisions. And then Wednesday morning, Wednesday lunch is iffy. We may or may not be here, depends on how my week goes. If we are, we'll be doing probably Spelljammer subclasses. And then Thursday morning, Thursday night, Spelljammer ship construction. Friday morning, Friday lunch, monks. Saturday morning next week, either this or monks. And then we'll flip back over to the 15th, and we'll see where we're at from there. So, but everything keeps moving forward, man. I'm really happy about that. Life is feeling pretty good. I'm proud of the work that we're doing here. It's all turning out the way that I want. Thanks a lot to all the new subscribers that have dropped into the channel. Hopefully, as you see me doing more work like this, you find value in it and decide to stick around. Thanks a lot to everybody that jumped in and subscribed to the channel because of the Kraken Week video that I did. It's a great example of using the game mechanics that I build to reapproach how 5e and D&D in particular can actually be ran easily with simple battles, just using some really strong mechanics and sound logic. So check all that stuff out. Love having you around. Drop into my channel. My Patreon has a permanent link to my Discord now and the About page. While you're there, you could subscribe for $1 to the Patreon to have first rights access to seats and playtesting that's coming up. And jump into the Discord and say, hey, love to have you around. So thanks a lot, guys. I am out of here for now, and I will be back on Monday. Cheerio.